Hello and welcome to the next Bible study on Acts. I've just come back from a week's holiday. I haven't gone anywhere, just a staycation. Uh, and you can't say a holiday and a rest are the same word of the amount of stuff we did and running around, but it was nice to take a break and see the family and everything else. So I just want to pick up in Acts 14 today and take a look at what's going on in this passage. One of the things that I noticed was the level of emotion going on here. And it got me thinking. Yesterday, I went to the first full crowd of a football match. My son, who's a enthusiastic, to put it mildly, Wrexham supporter, and there was a lot of hype around the game. There was a lot of energy. There was probably what could be one of the smallest crowds of the season at 5,400 people, and with all this hype, with all this energy, it was quite an interesting environment to be in. There's a lot of noise, a lot of chanting, and a huge amount of support for the Wrexham team and the team they were playing. They were being booed and everything else. So the reason I'm illustrating this is as we come into this passage, we'll see that around disciples and around the apostles who were preaching the gospel, there was an incredible amount of emotional energy, and it was a very charged environment. And I just want to encourage you, just for a moment, have a think of a place where you've been, where there is that energy that comes from a large number of people thinking in the same way, or stirred up about something, or as in football, annoyed at the referee or the opposition, and a bad tackle, whatever it is, or a goal. The energy is absolutely phenomenal, and it gives you an indication of how crowds of people can, or basically get people get swept along. If you look at this passage here in Acts 14, and it says that Paul and Barnabas they were actually in Iconium. They were preaching in a Jewish synagogue. They says they spoke so effectively that a great number of Jews and Greeks believed. So that's the background. You have the, the gospel being preached, and without doubt, it was a gospel with signs and wonders and miracles going on, and their ministry was being incredibly, incredibly effective. And many people, when they heard the message, the good news of Jesus, they're like, yeah, I believe. But in the crowd, you come to verse 2, it says, there were Jews who refused to believe. They may have had many reasons not to believe, but they were, and some of them might just been guarding their own traditions and beliefs and things that they value. And it says they refused to believe, and so they stirred up other Gentiles and poisoned their minds against the brothers. So now you've got this crowd mentality forming, that people are believing something not based on what they see and what they know, and asking questions and checking what their hearts are saying. They've been poisoned. There's a rhetoric, there's a conversation going on, there's a stirring up, there's a creating of sides, and the energy there is building. And it says Paul and Barnabas spent considerable time there, speaking boldly for the Lord, who confirmed their message of his grace by enabling them to perform signs and wonders. Again, I think we have to keep in mind and see that signs and wonders are a vital part of the gospel, and that God is willing and wants to confirm his word with signs and wonders. It's like when there is the preaching of the word, it's like God is there backing it up. So this isn't just a matter of words. This is a message that comes with power. But despite that, and again, let's just bring this into the modern time a minute, because sometimes I hear people saying what we need is one or two great miracles, and then many will believe, and that's probably there's probably an element of truth in it, but there's also this element here. You've got the signs and wonders, you've got miracles, you've got people being set free, but you've got people that just won't believe. You've got people whose hearts are turned away from it. It's the gospel becomes quite a dividing thing, whether it's just with words or even with power of the Spirit. It says the people were divided. Some sided with the Jews, others, the apostles. You got this dividing line, and the pressure and the intensity of this environment must have been incredible. But in the middle of it, Paul and Barnabas continue. They continue to speak boldly and great courage. And so we got the city divided, and basically everything ramped up and up and up. So there were plans set that which happened among the Jews and the Gentiles and their leaders. And they said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to mistreat them. We're going to stone them. And so can you see how crowds can form? So I think we just need to avoid an idealistic revival mentality that says the gospel will be preached, signs and wonders will happen, great things will happen, the presence of God will be there in extraordinary measure, and therefore people will believe. No, it'll be a crowd divider. There'll be people that do their best to stir up trouble to those that are trying to bring good. And when Paul and Barnabas found it out, it says they basically fled. They got out of the way and went to the surrounding cities. But here's the thing, they continued to preach the gospel. So though they moved for their own safety and well-being, they didn't move their message. I think that's one of our challenges, that we don't change or adjust our message, Jesus. We're not holding back because of the environment we're in, but we continue to be bold and have courage. So, when they got there, they got to Lystra. There was a man who was lame, and he'd been that way from birth. He'd never walked. He says, as he listened to Paul as he was speaking, Paul looked directly at him and saw he had faith to be healed. There's something in this guy, his intensity. And Paul wasn't just seeing the surface, he was seeing underneath. This guy, he's got it. He's lined up. He's waiting to receive a miracle from heaven. And at that moment, it says, he just called out, it says, stand up on your feet. At that, the man jumped up, began to walk. A spontaneous, instant, incredible miracle. I love that. Father, can we see more miracles? Can we see miracles that are instant and that we can see with our eyes? Any miracle is a great one, but some miracles like this, there's an instant thing going on in front of you. It says, when the crowd saw all had done, he's got a different battle on his hands now. They're putting him on a pedestal, and they're like, hey, the gods have come down in human form. And Barnabas they called Zeus, I think. Yeah, Zeus, I think that's how you say it. And Paul was called Hermes because he was the chief speaker. And they got wreaths, and they're like, setting them up as gods. And you see, they've got enough battles already going on. This group wanting to kill them and murder, and now they've got people seeing the miracles that, rather than finding out how the miracles happen, they're right in there going, he'll do. They'll be our gods. That's great. And it says Paul and Barnabas, hearing this, they tore their clothes. They went to the crowd saying, why are you doing this? We are only humans like you. We're bringing you good news, telling you to turn from the worthless things to the living God who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and everything in it. And so in that moment, the pressure is on them, and they're basically looking to turn that situation around and in it still bring the gospel. The challenges just don't let up, do they? And it says in verse 18, it says, even with these words, they had difficulty keeping the crowd from sacrificing. So as you come to this last bit, it's incredible, really. Some Jews arrived from Antioch and Iconium. They won the crowd over. So now you've got the crowd trying to make them gods, the crowd that are trying to believe. And now you've got the crowd that are joining the Jews and basically saying, got to kill them. says they stoned Paul, dragged him out of the city, thinking he was dead. And I find it interesting. Maybe they thinking he was dead. He must have been as good as dead, and looked as good as dead. But after the disciples got around him, he, he got up, went back into the city, and the next day they moved on. So you could see the emotional tension that's going on and the difficulty they're facing. And I think the thing that stands out is their consistency through everything. And my encouragement for us, myself, is just to be consistent. We may not feel we're the most confident person. We may not feel we're the best person at sharing the gospel. We may not feel we're the best at, oops, sorry, touched the computer there, best at praying for the sick. It's not about whether you're best or not. It's just be confident in who you are today. And then over time, you may grow in confidence and faith and ability to communicate. But don't hold back. Don't be intimidated. But keep pressing forward with this good news that we have. Bless you. Good to be back with you. I'll look forward to being with you again on Thursday, and hope you have a great week. Okay, bye for now.